Take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing.
What's up,
Call
good
now
people?
At 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
Let me turn their ads off. As always, I want to say thank you, everybody, as always, for being here and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I just got off the road from getting up here from the Red Brick House, and we've got the Dan Selio show, so we are getting ready to hit this, and I am getting everything set up here. Literally, I got here literally 5 minutes ago. And so I have busted a hump to get here and to get this thing going, and we got it going right now. And let me enter the studio. Okay.
Micaiah Becton getting some play at right guard. How will that play out? Well, I'll tell you
Alexa,
what. For the player
on
and the organization, if that thing plays out,
there we go.
You're talking about a grand slam for both.
All righty.
Micaiah Becton could go into the open
Williams,
market
what's
knowing
up?
that he could be a tackle anywhere. If he were on the open market right now, he could start on probably 75% of the teams in the National Football League. You got to realize something in today's NFL. Offensive linemen are harder to find than wide receivers. Every single one of the big played wide receivers has been traded. CeeDee Lamb going into a new contract. Obviously, we'll talk to Mark here in a second about that. But almost every one of them. And the money, when you get it, look at Justin Jefferson. Where's he going? You think Justin Jefferson's ever going to win a Super Bowl
what's
in Minnesota?
up, Vinny?
Never.
Never.
You think Tyreek Hill's ever going to win a Super Bowl in Miami?
Never.
You can pay guys all you want. But if you don't have the proper signal caller, you're not going to win.
You're right.
Receivers
about that.
don't win you Super Bowls. Quarterbacks do.
True on that one. But you
have
have
the
to
right guy
you have to have the other
pulling the
people around.
trigger. And when you have the right guy pulling the trigger, that usually means you have a pretty good offensive line. I would rather spend $25 to $35 million or $26 million on an offensive tackle than a receiver. Especially when I've got quarterbacks that can win. Get this. Let me show you something about quarterbacks and wide receivers before we get Mark on here. The San Francisco 49ers got to the Super Bowl with a guy making $850,000. And the Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl with not one guy with 900 yards receiving on their team. Why are you paying them guys? It's all about the QB, man. It's about the QB and the O-line. You don't have the right guy, you are not going to win. And you don't have the right pieces around him. You're not going to win. Now, I had a chance to talk to Stephen Jones last night. We did a little bit of the camp the first week at camp. I'm not sure the Cowboys have had a padded practice yet.
They have.
Here's the Cowboys here. And let's bring our friend Mark Holmes in, who's got a pretty interesting offseason going on so far. By the way, Mark does a great job covering the Dallas Cowboys. Appreciate it, brother. How you doing, man?
Well, how are you doing there today, Dan? You know, the Cowboys, we try and put the best team on the field, and, you know, I got to be like Harry Houdini to get these guys signed here. But we actually have had our first padded practice yesterday, and Tyler Guyton, that first-round pick of ours, man, he looks really, really good. And we got our second padded practice going on as we speak right now.
Here's what
did that sound like Stephen Jones to you?
No, yeah. How you doing, Diane? This is what we're doing here. Sometimes we get players with dents in the fender, and we sign players with dents in the fender as long as they can produce. How I look at people and how I'll always look at people. And I love it. But, hey, here's my takeaways, and tell me early in the process here. Because CeeDee's out, first and foremost, let's start there. the money that's being offered to him, it looks like there's just logistics of the languaging and payouts right now that they're going back and forth on. It looks like this deal's going to get done here probably by the end of the week, where you could see CeeDee Lamb in camp. So, I mean, was he the right first guy to go to, or should it have been Dak Prescott?
Well, they always say the squeaky wheel gets the lube. And with him not being there, let's be clear here, he is the major part of the offense. With, Zeke coming back, you got to have him. I know in today's offense, the wide receiver isn't as important as the offensive line and the tight end, but you got to have some really good players. You made a great point in here where you were saying about San Francisco basically paying their quarterback under $1 million and went to the Super Bowl. It's true that you have to, it's all about the quarterback. But see, the problem is, I don't know if Walker Wade's going to be in the house dropping you a few super chats or not. His whole thing is it's just the quarterback. But unfortunately, it's still a team game. They'll say, well, Dak isn't anything like Roger Staubach. Yeah, but Roger Staubach had how many Hall of Famers around him? You have to have a great quarterback, but you also have to have pieces to go along with it. So getting CD in is important.
Well, he of course, you had Dorsett. You had really great players in the offensive line. Mm-hmm. Billy Joe Dupree was a pretty good tight end, was a guy who was a productive tight end for them. Robert Newhouse was a guy who was a tremendous fullback.
Rayfield, right?
They had a bunch of really great
Drew Pearson
tools for Staubach. But I said this the other day about your team, Mark. I think you're in the land right now of Danny White. That Dak is really good, but I don't know if Dak is going to – and Danny White actually got to NFC Championship games. He just lost them. I think he got to 5 of them. But you're just in the era right now. And, again, back in that era, you could keep guys. You didn't have to worry about salary caps. You were kind of pigeonholed to the organization that drafted you. You had no lateral freedom, so you couldn't leave the organization. But still, they've got to figure out, and they've really got to come to Jesus and have the conversation. Is Dak the guy who can look like a Super Bowl champion quarterback? Is he the guy who can lead me to that guy?
Well, here's my thought on this. I don't know that there is a guy with their way of building a team and doing it is enough. Because as I look at the Eagles constantly, what did they do about Jalen Hurts? We're not sure if Jalen Hurts is the guy or not. We got a backup plan that if he fails, we got draft picks that we can get somebody. But let's give him everything that we can to make sure that he's successful. That's something that the Cowboys, the only time you've looked at that and said that's what they've done was when they went out and got Amari Cooper and then they got rid of him. When they got rid of Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson, they didn't replace him. Now you had a young star in CeeDee Lamb who's doing great. But see, this is where San Francisco, this is where the Eagles, this is where other teams look and say, we've got a really good core group of guys. What can we do to get them over the hump? Right now, I look and I say, Tyler Guyton looks like he's actually going to be pretty good. And I caution people to get too excited over one padded practice. But you look and say, okay, maybe he's a little bit better than what the early words were saying, that maybe he won't be ready to start. He's got to be a day one starter, and he's got to make an impact. And it looks like that's the direction that they're going. But again, I say, use caution. It looks like Nealon may end up being a decent, pass rusher to replace Sam Williams. And your guy that you can't stand, Mozzie, seems to have a bit of a different attitude and seeming to be at the right weight at that 310 right now and being able to start doing stuff. But again, I say it's still early. Yeah. So, you've got good pieces. 31st. Yeah, you got good pieces, but hey, why not say, let's go out and get another, defensive lineman that'll help us stop the run. Let's go out and get a running back who doesn't have as many miles on it as Zeke. Instead, they'll just say, we like the guys we have. And this is why you go into the playoffs with a safety at linebacker.
Here's some of the things that I was told here in the last couple days here about the Cowboys, that Jalen Tolbert looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. That, here's a guy that could sit maybe in that wide receiver 3. He's getting a lot of reps. Really good. But Jalen Tolbert looks like he's doing a pretty good job there in Dallas camp, and that him and Dak look like they have a pretty good repertoire between one another there. So he's, in your opinion, looking pretty good in camp?
Yeah, for number 3 wide receiver, it's definitely going to be an improvement over what we had with Michael Gallup. For whatever reason, I think they rushed Michael Gallup back 2 years ago because he had gotten the new contract, and it seemed like he had lost all confidence and that the leg just never seemed to be right. But they still kept trying to push him out there. Jalen Tolbert had half of the snaps and was almost as productive as Michael Gallup was, and they should have probably used him more. The thing about Jalen Tolbert was his rookie year, which every place he's been, his first year has just been awful. Started coming on last year and working with Dak and his home field and stuff in the backyard and stuff. It seems like without CeeDee Lamb, that they've gotten more work and stuff in, and it's helped definitely the younger guys hopefully step up. That once you get CD in there, then you'll have a capable wide receiver core. The guy who hasn't really stood out so much right now is Brandon Cooks.
Here's what I'm hearing about your wide receiving core. By the way, guys, please hit the like button here. Here's what I'm hearing for your 4 guys: Lamb, Brandon Cooks 2, Jalen Tolbert 3, and Kayvon
Turpin.
Turpin will be your number 4 guy. Those will be your top 4 receivers.
Right. He's also a kick returner.
Early in camp right now, July 31st, unless they decide to make a personnel move, those are going to be the wide receivers that are going to go into the first week of the season, correct?
That sounds about right. Now, Brandon Brooks is actually looking really good, too. And it may end up being that Turpin still stays basically the special teamer, and they end up keeping Brooks on the roster because then he's basically the 4th wide receiver as well.
See, here's the thing that Eagle fans don't get. Outside of Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, they have nothing. I mean, wide receiver 3, there's see, I say this all the time to people that are Eagle fans. People go like this: Sills, what do you think of the wide receiver room? I don't think it's very good. Certainly not deep.
Right.
I go, but you got 2 phenomenal football
but if
players.
One of them goes down.
Smith and A.J. Brown, but you have no depth level, whereas the Cowboys have functional guys in the building, and you're kind of 4 deep. They're not 4 deep. And I'm not saying that these guys outside of Lamb are world beaters. Cooks is probably, like, I get this. Brandon Cooks would easily start on the Eagles at wide receiver 3.
I'd have to agree with that. He's a good receiver.
He would easily start with anything they have in the building there, including Paris Campbell.
And he'll thrive with CD Lamb. If he had to be the number 1, we'd be in trouble. But with CD Lamb out there taking the attention and stuff, and with you also having Jake Ferguson is going to be a major piece this year. If he can continue to rise like he has been, that's going to be able to really spread the field and actually help our running game. I know you laugh at our running game.
Get this here. See, a guy goes like this. Name me let's take A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith off the field. Name me one wide receiver that you're going to go into a football game with if you're the Eagles as your number 1 primary target. Paris Campbell?
Okay. Yeah, you're in trouble then.
Aniyah Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Who are they going to – I mean, they make it – look, they're 2 elite guys. Their room's not good.
Mm-hmm.
They got 2 guys that – let me tell you this. When you lost one guy in the playoff game last year against the Bucs, the offense looked like shit. Hey, wait a minute. I'm awake. Are you? Who's your number 1 primary target? If Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown aren't out there, who as your wide receivers, who are your number 1 targets? Paris Campbell? John Ross? Who's that?
Nobody.
Who's John Ross?
And see, this in lies the problem with the Cowboys, which reared its head with Sam Williams getting hurt.
Their group is not awful. It's not great except Lamb.
Yeah.
But it's not awful, and I think they're deeper than Philly.
But here's the difference, though, with Philly, though, is you're going to be predicated more on the run than the Cowboys will. You have that more to rely on it. If we end up losing Brandon Cooks and CD, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to rely on Rico and Zeke the same way that you guys are going to be able to rely on Saquon.
Here's something about Tyler Guyton here. I heard that there's been a little bit of I'm not talking about the tight end. I'm talking about your shit number 3 receiver. Tyler Guyton has kind of wobbled a little bit, but yesterday, as you said, they put Parsons on him. If that's me, Mark, I put Parsons on him every practice. I put him every single practice I possibly can, whether it's against the run, pass, what have you, so that I can get him primed and ready for the opening week against, is it Detroit you guys play?
No, we play the Browns.
Browns, that's right.
Browns,
you play the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, so
because you're gonna have Myles Garrett.
You have Myles Garrett going
too.
against
You got to deal with Myles Garrett and Jim Schwartz's defenses.
That is going to be a trial by fire. Well, what we had heard a couple weeks ago was that Tyler Guyton wasn't going to be ready to be starter, and Chimo Igoda was looking to actually be the starter, possibly week one. And it was like, that's just like, okay, now we got shades of Mozzie Smith. Being as tall as he is, 6'7" and 330, typically guys that have that kind of length, they're not real good with their feet. But I'm going to say that this guy, I'm going to call him Twinkle Toes. He actually is really quick with his feet. And when he was going against Micah Parsons, and now my bigger question is was it more about Tyler Guyton or was it more about Micah Parsons, that maybe Micah Parsons isn't quite yet ready, because he's dropped about 10 pounds because he figured he was too heavy last year. And it may be that he's not quite there because he wasn't there for OTAs. But be that as it may, he's really good at taking that blow that they come in of being able to recoil, get his arms on him, and to be able to stay with him, because Micah Parsons is trying to get up underneath that edge. He's dipping and ripping and trying to get there, but Tyler is keeping with him the whole way and just washing him past. So, again, it's only one practice, okay?
Right, it's July 31st. I mean, what's funny is you see a lot of people talking about, I think one thing that Dak does really well, Dak works on a lot of things that he's not good at.
Mm-hmm. And gets better.
And guess what? Last year they were talking about all the picks he was throwing in camp. Well, when the season came, he only threw 7. So, I mean,
9.
right?
It was 9. But
it was 9. Okay.
People don't remember. He broke his freaking throwing thumb, guys. Come on.
Cal Clowns could pay Dak $25 for 9 years since the bum is 2-5 playoff over 9 years.
Okay.
Again, I'll say one more time here. I think Dak Prescott could lose wide receivers and still win ball games. He's a better passer than Jalen Hurts. He's a better passer.
One thing I will say
he's a better pocket passer. That's a fact. And by the way, to your point about Kellen, I see a lot of the motion offense that he ran in Dallas 2 years ago. All that motion offense he runs. Now what they're putting in is read option. There's a couple read option plays for Barkley and for Jalen. But there are a couple 2 tight end sets. I don't know if they ever ran 2 tight end.
Oh, we were great with 2. I love 12 personnel.
Well, that's why it's being implemented.
12 personnel was my favorite package.
They ran 2 tight end in Dallas.
Here's the thing that happens with Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore actually is a great play designer. And that's
a great take. It does.
Yeah, but the thing is I'm going to say Jason Garrett had the same thing. When the bright lights came on in playoffs, the things that you were doing well, for some reason, just disappeared in the playoffs. Because things that worked really, really well with Dak is great on the move outside the pocket. Bootlegs, 12 personnel was deadly. To me, 12 personnel, I love 12 personnel, because if you have the right kind of tight ends, you can go, we're just going to go man-man, and we're just going to run the ball down your throat.
They're doing some of this now in Philly.
And if you have pass-catching tight ends, you can go empty backfield, and you've got 5 guys out there to catch the football. And if you got a defense that's got 8 men in the box because you're worried about stopping it, you got numbers against them. But when we get to the playoffs, that stuff disappeared every time with Kellen Moore.
Here's the look that I have with your old line, according to Stephen Jones. Guyton at left tackle, Tyler Smith at left guard. According to him, he thinks it's going to be Huffman.
He's playing. Now, Huffman played 3 games for us last year in relief, and played really well.
I'll get to him in a second. Yeah. Martin, right guard, and Terrence Steele at right tackle. They said that Cooper Beebe is struggling from the Mark Stepnoskis.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is he's having a hard time getting the snap up, and he can't get the snap up, but Mark struggled with that. He went from guard to center, and they're kind of trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah.
So that's why one day he looks good, Mark, and then the next day he doesn't look good. It's just going to be hit or miss until he's able to get that football and snap it back up to the quarterback. So they're probably going to go with Hoffman.
Which is he's experienced.
Probably as a starter, maybe early. I don't know. I don't believe they'll put Cooper Beebe back over at guard, but again, he could be your swing guard if anything goes down.
To me, it's funny that you even say that, because that's exactly what I was saying this morning in one of my videos. I'm okay if Brock Hoffman is ready to play and he can play at least as good as we got last year, and you can take your time with Cooper Beebe, and if you need to, he can be the swing guard. I hope nothing happens with Tyler Smith or Zach Martin, but if I have Cooper Beebe, who has been an outstanding guard as a backup, I actually feel a lot better, because at least we have some depth there. And he's having a little bit of problems with the shotgun snaps, and he's doing the extra work and stuff on trying to get that together, but it's definitely a work in progress.
I'm hearing that Kalen Carson, according to the personnel people, are saying that they really like what this kid looks like, and that you're creating depth back there, especially for the two guys that you have, your Pro Bowlers at cornerback, that this guy's creating some depth for them. And one thing that the Cowboys have done a nice job of, they've been landing on secondary guys. The safeties, they've been landing on them in the cornerback positions. They've been finding guys. So, I mean, it's pretty good back there so far. And here's another kid that could be like maybe cornerback 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm. And you have to actually give a lot of credit to Al Harris, because Al Harris, I think, is one of the most underrated coaches, and I would not be surprised to see him as a defensive coordinator in the next couple of years, because he's been able to take guys that have been very, very raw and really coach them up. Bland was not, he was a 5th-round draft pick, and I know a lot of people will still say his cover skills aren't great, but when you can get 6 pick sixes and you're only in your second year, this is the year that you're going to be working on him to get better cover skills. He's not going to get as many interceptions and things, but he should become a better corner.
What about the fact that no one's showing up to Cowboy camp like in the past, where Cal Lutheran places in the stands used to be packed now?
Bro.
Is it because they have such low expectations of the team? I don't know how you can have high expectations right now. Because I don't know what the Cowboys look like. I went around the NFC and I did all the NFC East teams and what the word is coming out of camp. But boy, I'm telling you, when I hear and talk to Cowboy people, I'm not sure what they even think they have.
I think Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, the house that they've built, that they finally, people are fed up. After the Green Bay game and after seeing and listening to Jerry say we're all in and seeing us do absolutely nothing, here's the thing that's going to be crazy is, and I've been here every year the last 3 years, Cowboys do absolutely nothing in free agency. They get killed by the media. They don't care about winning. And they play good enough to be a playoff team, or at least be close enough to be a playoff team. Or they get to the playoffs and they lose a game. That's not the problem. They do some things that are incredible. They find talent where others don't. When I look at, if Tyler Guyton ends up being one of the first-round draft picks that we have that becomes all-pro, you can't argue with that. You can look at the Giants and what they've done with, getting Evan Neal, who stinks, and everything else. They find a lot of good players. Their problem is that last 10% where they got to top it off and have a little bit more for the playoffs, they just don't do.
This is what the problem, though, in my opinion, with Dallas is they're afraid to make the tough cut.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, if they see a guy who's a really good player, they're going to do this. And by the way, again, folks, Eagle fans, these are the people you have to beat. They own you, 9-4. Okay? These are the people you have to beat.
Yeah.
We don't cover the Cardinals. This is the team you have to beat.
Twice a year.
For you to win the NFC East. Okay? Eagle fans believe, again, there's a reason why in the last 23 years there hasn't been a repeat team win the NFC East. They think that you're going to just run through the Cowboys when the Cowboys have owned you. Yes, but what do they do in the postseason? I'm not talking about the postseason.
Regular season.
You get paid on the regular season. Nobody gets paid on the off season. So the Cowboys are the number one obstacle for the Eagles this year when it comes to winning their division. You first have to, you know what kills me, Mark?
What kills you?
Is that people don't understand. You draft and you sign free agents to combat your division first.
Yes.
You don't draft to beat the 49ers or Detroit. You draft to beat Dallas because the number one objective is to first win your division, where you get a home field at minimum when you're in the playoffs. And if you happen to be good, you can host the NFC Championship game. Everyone's under the assumption, well, we've got to stay up to par with the 49ers. The 49ers are in the West. Have nothing to do with you. You may never see them again until the NFC title game, but you're going to see Dallas twice, and you got to beat them.
So I got a question for you here. Now that you're seeing that Kellen Moore is basically using his Cowboys offense, I heard you. I was listening to you coming through it. Do you think Hurts is going to be able to turn that switch on and be ready week one?
I don't know that. I don't. I think because what I'm hearing from Grant Calcaterra is that they're saying it's a lot of motion. Mm-hmm. He's also now responsible for setting line protection. Last year, you had Jason Kelce doing that. Now you have a lot more in the process because this is what Grant Calcaterra said too, is that in this motion offense, everybody's an option. And so last year, everybody wasn't an option. There was two dudes that were an option,
and that's
Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So now he's got to spread the ball around, which means this. Here's the number one issue I have with Hurts. Is that going to be still an issue with him holding on to the football too long? I still think that his pocket presence, in my opinion, I question it.
To me, it always seems like he's ready. If his first read's not there, he's ready to run. He's ready to get out of there. Sometimes he just doesn't look comfortable unless he's on the move. And that's the thing that Mike McCarthy did last year with Kellen Moore. He didn't scrap everything that Kellen Moore did. There's some things that they've done that have been really, really good. But what he did do was he simplified it and got rid of a lot of the combination routes. He tried to speed it up so that way you can get the ball out of the quarterback's hands before you get hit. And sometimes with Kellen Moore's offense, you're going to end up having slower developing plays, lots of comebacks and things, where the quarterback and the wide receivers have to be on the same page, as opposed to, I'm throwing to this spot, you better be there, and that's where it's coming right now. And that definitely helped Dak last year. Our offensive line looked a lot better as far as pass protection because they did speed it up and getting the ball out of their hands. It'll be interesting to see how it works with Jalen Hurts, because I think Jalen Hurts is not exactly that type of quarterback. He's an incredible. Don't send me your hate mail, Eagle fans. Hurts is a great quarterback.
What Eagle fans don't want to hear is they don't want to hear Cowboys shit, even though the Cowboys are the people that you got to beat. It's funny how that works.
You know what's funny though?
Idiotic.
Dan? Here's the thing that's funny. I was watching my buddy Game Time Brian's live stream last night, and here it is, the first day of padded practice. Right? So you got all the news about your new guys and everything else. Yet Eagle fans are still right there on Cowboys pages when there's so much news on their own team. So they'll protest too much. All of these idiots over here saying why you have Mark Holmes here, this, that, and the other. You know your ass loves me being here, guys. Come on.
Oh, no, because I think it's important that we have to stay and stick in with the Joneses. Mm-hmm. Because if you're going to win the East, you have to beat Dallas. You just have to beat Dallas. I mean, Dallas has to beat Philly. If they want to do anything this year, because, again, common opponent twice, there's no question that, again, this has gone on from Vermeil to today. I don't care what anybody says. What Dallas does dictates what Philadelphia will do in the postseason. Okay? It will. By the way, the Cowboys won the division last year. The Cowboys in the last 8 years have won 4 division titles.
And it's done 0 for us. But now that you've
agreed.
Now that you've seen the first couple of practices and training camp and stuff, do you feel better about the Eagles or feel worse about the Eagles?
I do. I feel better because of the coordinators. And I'll tell you something that I do like what Kellen Moore is doing. Kellen Moore has given the Eagle offense a facelift. And what I mean by that is you said one thing that he did when he was in Dallas, Mark, that he is a good play designer. The one thing that he's doing right now, there's a lot of motion.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different looks under the center. There's guys in wide receiver 3 position. They're putting AJ and Devontae in the slot. They may be the same plays, Mark, but at the end of the day, they've given this whole entire offense a facelift. Now, how will that translate? It's July 31st. I don't know. We're going to have to see what that looks like come September 6th against the Packers. But right now, I like it. And on the other side with Fangio is, I'm going to tell you what, like I said before, he's the conservative of conservative defensive coordinators. It's control and contain, which means he's going to keep everything underneath. Teams are going to have a field day. Prescott's going to throw for 350 yards against this defense. Now, the question will be this, though.
Mm-hmm.
Will you score? Because his number one thing will be this.
Bend, don't break.
He wants to defend from 20 in. He doesn't want to give big plays up. And can you have sustained drives against the Eagles? That is how he thinks about playing defense. Quarterbacks in the NFL are going to have a high completion percentage versus the Eagle defense this year, at least early, until they get acclimated, especially in the secondary. But what they're going to do is everything will be underneath. There'll be a lot of yards underneath like there was in Miami. And that's kind of what you're going to see. However, they got a lot of young talent. This Quinyon Mitchell kid looks like he's somebody. So it's going to be something like that in that room.
So you're picking more than 7 wins for the Eagles now?
No, I didn't say that. I want to see it. I want to see it on,
Okay.
on the field first.
Okay. Well, I'm
not that guy on July 31st to sit there because the guy's been in pajamas for 4 days and then you get into pads for 1 day. I want to see it in game situation when sometimes you lose your shit when you're out there and all of a sudden somebody's running by you. You know, everybody's got a plan, Mark, until someone punches you in the face.
And that's when things change. Well, I can say that the players that we lost, because there's been, of course, a lot, losing Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong and Hankins and, of course, Tyron Smith and things. We have a bunch of holes where we do have to have guys that are going to have to step up and play, and are going to be guys that people don't necessarily know. But at the moment, you can look and say, okay, I can see the plan that was here. Now, the thing for the Cowboys with people not showing up with the Joneses and things, Cowboy fans are tired of hearing the good old Jerry Jones, we're all in, and Stephen Jones that you can't sign anybody. I think the Cowboys need to actually just make a move beyond just signing their own guys. They need to do
like
something.
this right here by picking what he says. I think that Armstrong loss that you guys had, I think that's a big loss.
The thing with Armstrong,
he looks pretty good in commander camp.
He does. And he's not a bad player, but the amount of money that he's getting paid for is quite a bit. And you did draft him Marshawn Nealon. If Marshawn Nealon can continue to go like he has, he's like D-Law. And so you look at that and say that's a play. Sam Williams, had he had as many snaps as Dorrance Armstrong, he would have been just as good. But unfortunately, we've lost him for the season. But I think the Cowboys need to make a move just to make a move to appease the masses because Cowboy fans are just tired. They're fed up. They're sick of going to the playoffs and losing in the first round. He needs to do something to get the Cowboy fans excited again. Now, will they? I don't know.
Let me end this with this. Do you believe by the end of training camp, Dak Prescott will have a deal?
I think so, because I think the Cowboys went to camp, I think, looking at Trey Lance and trying to say, let's see what we really have with him right now. Is he viable? And thus far, he's had a couple of decent passes, but for the most part, you look and say he's a long ways away. And hearing Dak Prescott in the opening press conference that day, that it seems like he's ready to say, you know what, it's a business. And I think the Cowboys actually have a sense of urgency right now. Now, what you've heard Steven say, and you've talked to Steven, so maybe you know a little bit more that you can't share, but they've sent over offers, which doesn't necessarily mean much, to CD and to Dak, and they're basically saying we're waiting to hear back from them. So they are trying to get these things done.
Tell you what, man. One thing I can count on Eagle fans, they hate you.
Oh, my God. They love to hate me.
Not only do they hate you, they hate your team. They don't want to hear anything positive out of Cowboy camp. They fucking hate you, man. Hey, and I love that That I do, because you know why? What they don't get is, once again, like I said, hey, you may hate the Cowboys, but you got to beat the Cowboys.
You're right about that.
You got to beat them.
Well,
okay? You got to beat them.
I hope to see you next Wednesday.
Gotcha.
That we actually can do this show together live, so they can really be hating at Cowboy camp. Okay.
oh my God. I can just imagine Stephen Jones coming over talking. What about the Eagles, Dan? I hear you covering the Eagles.
Stephen Jones might call security and have me escorted out of the place.
Look at this guy. Look at Prince. Get this guy effing. Hey, dude. See, that's a merit badge for you right there.
Oh, Lordy.
That's a merit badge. Okay? Know that, Mark. Mark, tell
I love you guys too.
Find you and your great work.
Oh, Lord. Eagle fans know where to find me. Joe Boo Sports Report. Mark Holmes, okay? On Twitter, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It's Joe Boo Sports Report.
You know what's funny?
What's
Eagle
that?
fans actually in here think that Paris Campbell's a better player than Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
I mean,
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
They really think that Paris Campbell's better than Brandon Cooks. He's not.
Well, you remember,
he's a dude.
You remember
They're
Philly
even
500
talking about going out and looking for another guy out of the building.
Remember, Philly.500 thought that you guys have a better secondary than we do.
They don't.
Okay, so there you have it. King Dingbat right there for you, as delusional as can be.
Mark, I appreciate it, brother, man.
All
we'll
right,
be
man.
checking out. Well, hey, we'll follow up after the program with you. Thank you, brother.
All right, peace out, man.
You got it, man. That's our good friend there, Mark Holmes, who checks in with us weekly and talks a little Cowboys. You guys just don't get it, man. The Dallas Cowboys are your top opponent. Those are the people you have to beat.
You have to beat
to win the
You got to
NFC
know the enemy.
East. If you don't
All right, we're going to end that with that. I appreciate everybody showing up here today. It's it's kind of crazy how when it's just me and Dan, it's just like a regular conversation. You get Philly.500 in there, he gets bolder and he just trashes the hell out of me. It's kind of crazy how that works. Oh, well, it is what it is. Let me say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And I've got to actually, the work and the grind never ends. I literally just spent 2.5 hours driving here, and I got to head to Home Depot because I got to pick up, because I was at Home Depot and they were out of the trap that is the screw-on trap. So I need one of those so that way I can go over and hook up the sink and faucet and everything else over in that kitchen that I was working on. And I'm going to be fighting rush hour traffic to get over there. So I've got about an hour drive to get there, hook that stuff up, and then be able to come back here and so on. And hopefully be back in time to see Philly.500 and Game Time Brian mixing it up. What's up, Eddie B? Eddie, I want to talk to you, Eddie. But we are back here, and we're going to be getting ready to go to training camp. On Sunday, we will be flying out to California on the Cowboys off day and be there for Monday's practice. I literally cannot wait to get there. All right, good people.